Imagine a world where you can sail right up to the North Pole, where the largest ice sheet in the northern hemisphere is simply melting away.
The melt is winning this game.
We've now broken all-time records for 3 consecutive years.
As oceans continue to rise, flooding the streets of American cities half a world away.
What happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic.
Imagine a world where hurricanes and heat waves wreak havoc.
Breaking news as Hurricane Irma continues to show no mercy.
Just a hellstorm. The fire just...
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico after taking a direct hit. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed. Maria is the first Category 4 to hit there in nearly a century. 150-mile-an-hour winds ripping buildings apart, knocking out power everywhere. All of the electricity is out tonight. People ordered to stay inside until at least tomorrow amid fears of more massive flooding to come.
A drastic change just this week from extreme to even worse, if that's possible, as California suffers through an unprecedented drought that we've been covering over half the state, now facing the most severe conditions.
Well, it's not only hot, it's deadly hot. At least 22 people have died so far in the heat wave currently sweeping the country. And conditions will only get more dangerous in the coming days, forecasters say. Factors such as relative humidity of more than 90% and little or no wind are making temperatures that are already high feel downright unbearable.
Politicians deny the problem as temperatures continue to rise.
It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
Greenland is an epicenter for climate change.
What if I told you this is already happening, right here, right now, that we are the primary cause and that only we have the power to stop it?
We hear it so much that it feels like a buzzword, but it is far from it. Climate change is a real and serious issue. But isn't the climate always changing? What exactly is climate change, and why should we care? Well, the Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Most of these slight changes are caused by small variations in the Earth's orbit. But climate change as we know it today is characterized by an abrupt increase in the Earth's temperature. It is estimated to have gotten 1.2 to 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit warmer in just the last century. 10 out of the last 13 years were the warmest on record. 97% of climate scientists agree that this new tendency is not caused by the variations of the Earth's orbit, but rather very likely caused by human activities. That means you and me. And since the Industrial Revolution, we have come a long way. Humans built airplanes, faster cars, developed remarkable technology, and learned how the natural resources around us can be used for our benefit. Although this has led to many wonderful inventions and advancements, like the device you're using to watch this video, or the ability to take a plane halfway around the world, it also means we've increased our consumption of natural resources and in turn released a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now, greenhouse gases occur naturally, but in excess can be dangerous to our planet. Modern human activities have increased the release of non-naturally occurring greenhouse gases because we have stepped up our demand for burning fossil fuels. The composition of greenhouse gases traps heat radiated from the sun. The more heat they trap, the warmer our planet gets. And as our planet gets warmer, we begin to feel the effects.
I mean, the fossil fuel industry is the biggest industry in the world. They have more money and more influence than any other sector. So, I mean, the more that there can be sort of popular uprising against that, the better. But I think the scientific fact of the matter is we are unavoidably headed towards some level of harm. So the sooner we can take action, the less harm will result.
What is your grand vision for all of this?
The point of the Gigafactory is to get the cost of batteries down to the point where it's affordable.
Right.
Batteries are critical to a sustainable energy future. The sun doesn't shine all the time, so you've got to store it in a battery.
How is this going to help developing nations that have massive populations that need to have power?
So the advantage of solar and batteries is that you can avoid building electricity plants at all. So you could be a remote village and have solar panels that charge a battery pack that then supplies power to the whole village without ever having to run thousands of miles of high voltage cable all over the place. It's like what happened with landline phones versus cellular phones. In a lot of developed countries, they just didn't do the landline phones. They just went straight to cellular. And we actually did the calculations to say, like, what would it take to transition the whole world to sustainable energy? What kind of throughput would you actually need? And you need 100 gigafactories. So
100 of these?
100 of these, yes.
That would make the United States...
No, the whole world.
The whole world?
The whole world. All energy.
That's it?
Yeah.
That sounds...
It's manageable.
That sounds manageable.
Yeah.
You don't have to break the law to help fight global warming. There's plenty of things you can do in your home that could have a huge effect on the environment. There are obvious ways to reduce your power consumption, like carpooling, recycling, and switching to more energy-efficient light bulbs. But people may not realize what a difference these seemingly small changes can make. For instance, if you wash your clothes with cold water, you're going to save 500 pounds of carbon dioxide, and recycling can prevent up to 2,400 pounds of carbon dioxide from entering the atmosphere each year. Hey, my wife, this one's for you. Adjusting your thermostat by 2 degrees colder in winter and 2 degrees warmer in summer can save another 2,000 pounds of carbon dioxide per household. Permanent change will require a national movement. Write letters to your congressman urging them to pass laws to cap carbon emissions and require companies to pay for the greenhouse gases they emit. Tell your friends to follow your example. Donate to organizations like 350.org and Greenpeace who are working to prevent further damage caused by global warming. All these things you can do!
Reuse things. Walk or use public transportation to get to work. Turn off your electronics when you're not using them. Eat less meat. While you're at it, eat more locally grown vegetables and foods. And last but not least, spread your knowledge and concerns about climate change with others. When it comes to climate change, the main takeaway is that it's real. And although we are part of the cause, we can also be part of the solution.
Methane is far more impactful. Every molecule of methane is equivalent to 23 molecules of CO2. And of the methane in the atmosphere, nearly all of it is due to livestock.
In comparison to emissions from other sources, what kind of percentage are we talking about come from the consumption of beef?
About 10-12% of the total US emissions is due to beef. It's staggering. But it's very easy to envision a dietary shift even as minor as switching, let's say, from beef to an alternative, let's say even chicken. The chicken will require 20% of the land and 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And if you compare rice or potato or wheat, beef requires 50 times as much land.
So even cutting the amount of beef that you eat in half or by a quarter could make a significant difference.
Very significant.
Do you at all think that that's even a possibility, considering that beef is so a part of our culture?
Maybe not everybody's ready to eat tofu, 24/7. I get that. But even if you just have to have some flesh between your teeth, if you switch to chicken, you will have eliminated 80% of what you emit, depending on where you're coming from. Let's face it, it's fairly easy to switch your diet from one choice to another.